Getting ready to buy or sell a home in 30, 60, or 90 days? Then check out BundleSelect.com to find out how you could save 20% or more on your entire transaction. Save on real estate, lending, and title. With BundleSelect.com, technology and a personal concierge are at your service to save you time and money. Bundle Select's hand-picked team of experts will compete for your business, so you'll save thousands of dollars by bundling all of these services. BundleSelect.com gives you all the control, including using your own realtor. I'm Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live, and I have been on the radio educating consumers for years. By bundling services like real estate, lending, and title, you could save tens of thousands of dollars. Act now, and this new model could save you money on your move, lower your interest rate, or cover your closing costs. Visit BundleSelect.com. That's BundleSelect.com.
The estimated minimum savings are based on a comparison with a national average. Individual results may vary, and the estimated savings are not guaranteed. Bundle Select Inc. is a licensed real estate broker. California Bureau of Real Estate Broker license number 004666902.
Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging podcast discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Kuchera, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome in. Good afternoon. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you for tuning in. For those that are following us on the Facebook feed, appreciate that. We want to continue to grow the presence, and our focus, our objective is to continue to do that, really to get as much information out to you, the consumer. Of course, what we'd like you to do is download the podcast. That's where you can listen to the show at your convenience. You can do that in a couple different places. You go to iTunes, just type in Real Estate Radio Live. It'll come up. Download the podcast. Go to our website, RERL-1526.Attorney. You get the podcast there. Stitcher, iTunes, any of those places. We hope that we've done a good enough job so you can go anywhere on the Internet and type in Real Estate Radio Live. You'll find the podcast. Right, Jack?
I listen to it all the time. I was listening to it driving over here, and in fact, the mapping system suggested I always have a driving story because it's always a new experience. The mapping system, which is all automated, suggested I go a completely different way using a Winchester, really? And I was like, wow, there's a whole other part of town here I've never been through.
That's another way to go.
It's another way to go, and it actually enabled me to arrive on time, which is great.
Very good. Well, it's always good having Jack on. As most of you know, we've been following the show for several months now. We try to, every week or so, have Jack on. It's a new series. It's an ongoing series. Really, entrepreneurship, starting something new in Silicon Valley. There's so much to starting a new business, the partnerships, how to raise money, the legal contracts, the ramifications. There's all kinds of things. We've touched on a lot of them. Recently, we talked about insurance needs, business needs. Today, we're going to talk about risk management, right? Is that what we're going to talk about today?
I think that's a perfect segue from the 14 or 15 topics that we've covered, because I've got some really good advice and some good stories that are highly relevant to that topic. And to me, you can't write a book, although I tried to, and we just got it published on Amazon. They do a great job.
Yeah, this is nice.
And you can read it in about an hour because it's under 100 pages. And we'll make it available, of course, to anyone that asks for it. There's no charge. It's also available for those on Kindle that want to go on the Amazon store for free.
So those that are watching the show, of course, on the live feed, you might be able to see this or you can't. But Jack Russo, it's an entrepreneurial lawyer's guide to creating a successful startup in Silicon Valley. Jack, I'll let him give me a quick background in a minute. Almost 40 years helping startups, amongst other things as well, his firm does and practices we'll chat about in just a minute. But he's good enough to give this away. So a couple of different things. One, you go to our website. Jack's on our website, how you could contact him that way. You could contact me, email me, call me. Most of you following the show know how to reach me, of course, the website. Before we get started, Jack, maybe give the listeners a reminder of what you and your firm do and then where you're located.
Sure. So Jack Russo, managing partner of Computer Law Group, going on, I think it's almost 4 decades. Gosh, someone said to me today, you realize that you've been doing this long? And I said, and then she asked me what my age was, and I just about bit my tongue. I said, well, I've been doing this since I'm a teenager. Of course, that's not true. You have to go to a lot of schools, which I did, including business school and law school. But Computer Law Group is in downtown Palo Alto. We have offices in San Francisco as well. We try to serve the entire Silicon Valley and really the nation and to some degree really the world because it's becoming very international. Mm-hmm. Some of the stories that I'll tell today about risk management include international risk management. But conceptually, we're trying to do everything that the entrepreneur needs to get themselves out of the garage in business and then grow the business successfully and cross your fingers, hopefully without litigation. If you end up in litigation, we do defense work, we do plaintiffs work. We're known for that in the intellectual property, computer law, internet law space. And we're at 401 Florence Street, downtown Palo Alto. www.computerlaw.com is probably the more relevant address these days, right, if you think about it.
Right.
And the phone number there is 650-327-9800. The phone number in San Francisco is 415-225-6620. And the email address is jack@computerlaw.com. And typically, we are very simple. We're not like big firms that you have to do, days of what seems like conflict checking because we're a relatively small group. And we try to stay small because we think small is beautiful, and we frankly think it's a better way to serve our clients. So you made a nice referral to us. The gentleman who called said, I got through to you on the first ring. He said, I can't believe it. Every other lawyer I talk to, it's like you got to go through voicemail hell. And, of course, he said, I got an urgent situation. He sent his stuff over. We're going to help him by tonight. He was like, great. Joe made a great referral. You actually made the referral, so I want to thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And, that's some of what we try to do to change the way people view lawyers, because I think most people view lawyers as kind of a, POA.
Right. Well, before we get started, one of the things I thought about today as you're coming in, do you think overall, in a nutshell, starting a company today, Jack, any better, easier, tougher than 20 years ago?
I think it's gotten easier in the sense that the paperwork has gotten more electronified. Okay. I know that's not a word, and we're going to use it because I want to give it special meaning, so I get to be my own lexicographer here.
Right.
And what I mean by electronified, you can get a business started on the idea of a domain name and a concept and conceptually starting to pull a team together even to use open source, which is really unrestricted. This is an overgeneralization, but it's unrestricted software in the cloud that you can start to build on top of to build the next great widget or the next great whatever. And that's a lot of what you see these kids and some older people, some serial entrepreneurs, say, I don't need the big venture capital anymore. I can get started on a shoestring, and lots of them do.
Right.
And in fact, so that side of it is easier. What the harder part is actually scaling the business once you have something and getting distribution, getting awareness, getting people to buy into it, creating the cycle of adoption. That's actually gotten harder because it's noisy out there and it's getting noisier all the time. And in fact, people are like, I don't know where to go. It's so noisy. And these big businesses are having trouble as well getting above the noise themselves. So here's Apple, almost $1 trillion company. They come out with a beautiful speaker, and I don't mean any disrespect for, I think I know the designers of that device. I don't mean any disrespect for them. It's a beautiful device. It sounds great. It looks great. It's arguably better than the Alexa device by Amazon. It's arguably better than the Google device by Google. OK Google is, I guess, how you alert it. It has Siri baked into it. It enables so much. But they can't get it off the ground. They literally have put it everywhere, but they can't get people to because it's like, oh, it's another speaker and it's $400.
Yeah.
Well, gee, I can get an Alexa device for now it's $100. Maybe it's soon $50. They shrunk. There's a mini Alexa device that's like $30.
I'm glad you brought that up because the other example, the thing people have to understand, all these success stories, and the people want to hear about the trillionaires overnight and all that stuff, which is great. It's exciting and it's glamorous. But the reality is, you just made a good example. Even Apple has a hard time getting a new product out, right?
People, we only have a certain number of attention cycles.
Yeah.
There was actually a guy who studied this. He's a famous psychologist, maybe even psychiatrist, at the University of Chicago. I'm not sure he's still there. At some point I heard he retired and moved to Montana. He has a complicated name. It's Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, but he goes by Mike to make it easy. But Professor and Dr. Csikszentmihalyi would say, every minute of the day, you spend a certain amount of attention, and you do not have unlimited cycles. Right now, you and I are very focused on this show, making it as good as we can make it. We can't be writing our memoir on the side. We have to actually be doing that. I can't be taking emails as much as I think the world thinks you can multitask. You can't do it. You got to focus on what you're doing. You have to be present in the moment to deliver the best you can be. And a lot of times people are just I can't even look at another device. I can't even buy one. I can't even unwrap it. It's a funny story because you can give something as a gift. You come back 6 months later, it's still in the gift package. They haven't even unwrapped it. I can't get to that. I can't get to that now. I tell the story of my mother. Whenever I give her an electronic gift, she looks at me like I'm insane. Do you expect me to figure out how to make a Bluetooth connection? Are you serious? You give her a wireless set of earphones and say, well, Mom, you can kind of sit in bed and have this wireless earphones for music. She's like, I'm going to understand Bluetooth? I have a hard enough time plugging the wire into the jack of the cell phone to begin with. I mean, think about that for a minute. It's an amazing statement.
It is for sure. We didn't mean to get off track, but it's always good to have Jack, and you brought up this example of when I asked you about how easy and how hard, and it is so true. There's so much, and one of the reasons we like to talk about this, and I've oftentimes switch gears a little bit, because we feel like all this is really just more education information for you, the consumer, listening to this, that's thinking about starting a business, or maybe you have a friend or someone. There is so much to getting involved with, first of all, the right firm, someone like Jack that could help you get started. And then build yourself a team around a lot of different stuff that we've talked to before. But let's dive into our topic today. So risk management, kind of if you want to give those kind of a foundational overview of this.
Everything you do in forming and growing a business is about growing the top line and eliminating the downside. So growing the upside and eliminating the downside. So if you can imagine that the upside is going to continue to grow, while you're decreasing costs and decreasing expenses and decreasing risk, you're creating value that hopefully will be sustainable value. So if you're in a market, like, for example, right now, there are a number of markets that are extremely bubbly. You could argue the electric car, Tesla was in the right place at the right time, albeit they have a big challenge. But they want to grow value by growing the top-line numbers in higher price cars, better cars, trucks, expensive things, and they want to lower the cost and lower the risk. Well, some of the risk can get absorbed by insurance, which we talked about in the last session. Some of the risk just has to be planned and managed, and it's simply a business function to manage the risk. Now, in a small startup, when you get started, you have to start thinking, and we've covered this in different ways. So preventing people from copying your name. Get all those other names that are around it. Get the misspellings if you can get it, to avoid people who are going to scam you. Try to do stuff like that. Protecting against employees. I had a case come in this week where an employee was stealing from a company, and the company's owner and CEO was like, we never expected this guy to go south and steal some of our data, some of our information, and even some of our hard assets, shockingly. And, of course, a lot of it was, well, did you plan correctly? And in his case, luckily enough, he had actual videotape recordings from the security cameras that he could actually take to the police. He might not have had that, and he would be stuck saying, no, I've got no evidence.
So he did a good job preparing for potential risk.
He did, but, he is a pretty savvy guy, and he had done a number of stores before, so he had learned from errors in the past. So he didn't expect this guy. You could say he made a mistake in hiring the wrong type of person, or not screening him well enough, or maybe just not managing him, or at some point maybe the person himself kind of went off the wagon somehow. I mean, we have lots of problems in Silicon Valley and the nation with people turning to alcohol, drugs, a lot of things. People change. You have to anticipate risk. Of course, the biggest risk in a startup business, particularly with a small team, is one of your key people might become disabled or, worst case, die. And then have you backed up simple backup things? As I was saying to you before we got on the show, someone who was very close to me died recently, and her husband called me up, and she died way too young, and her husband called me up and said, Daryl died. And I was like, wow, I almost fell off my chair. She seemed way too young, in her 60s. Of course, as you get in your 60s, you start thinking that's way too young. Maybe in your 50s you feel the same way. And part of the questions that came up were, she has a bunch of files here. What do I do with them? She never talked to me about this. We never got into this story. Wow. So think about it now. I'll help him. I'll take custody of those files, and we'll do the right thing to make sure they're handled in the right way. But even in your own little family unit, now people do estate planning. Our firm doesn't do that. People do all kinds of family wealth transfers. We can help people at least find the right people to do it. But we're much more on the intellectual property side. People usually do the real estate stuff easily because they sometimes even put people on title. They do co-ownership deals. They do LLCs. They do family limited partnerships. That's all great. But what's more and more happening, and what I'm here to say is, there's a whole side of this that is intellectual property planning in the 21st century where more and more even real estate has an intellectual property side that has to be anticipated for transfer or transition. And I'll tell a story about that, but in general, I think there's a parallel between real estate, radio, live thinking, and business startups, and IP estate, intellectual property estate radio, which is trying to get people to understand more and more of what you do. Like right now, you have a show that has a brand and has intellectual property associated with it. It happens to be in this building. It could move to another building. It could move to another part of the world, and you could still transmit. There almost has to be a succession plan. It's not me because I'm older than you, but maybe it's one of your younger people here. I mean, they'll be lining the doors upon hearing this podcast. But it's hard to deal with because it's your show, it's your personality. But the truth is the topic is bigger than either of us.
Very true.
And there's tons of intellectual property that you are in control of and over. And more buildings are getting associated with that intellectual property. So if you have a Airbnb, the domain name and content associated with that Airbnb may well be more valuable in some ways than the dirt. Because the brand of that Airbnb becomes so powerfully known by people who want to stay, say, at a beach place. And they call that particular place. So everything we've talked about, the trademarks, the trade names, the copyrights, the other intellectual property, the patents, the trade dress, all of these stuff, the trade secrets, all that collection of value creation that generates the goodwill, that represents the value, that has to be planned around what do we do if we have to face our worst risks.
Well, let's talk about that. So what we're going to do is take a quick break. This is a lot of information, good information, and we'll continue to bring it to you. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live, sitting alongside Jack Russo with the Computer Law Group. We're going to take just a quick break so that we could do our little break for our podcast. If you're watching us live on Facebook, stick with us. We'll be back with you in just a minute.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
Getting ready to buy or sell a home in 30, 60, or 90 days? Then check out bundleselect.com to find out how you could save 20% or more on your entire transaction. Save on real estate, lending, and title. With bundleselect.com, technology and a personal concierge are at your service to save you time and money. Bundle Select's hand-picked team of experts will compete for your business, so you'll save thousands of dollars by bundling all of these services. BundleSelect.com gives you all the control, including using your own realtor. I'm Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live, and I have been on the radio educating consumers for years. By bundling services like real estate, lending, and title, you could save tens of thousands of dollars. Act now, and this new model could save you money on your move, lower your interest rate, or cover your closing costs. Visit BundleSelect.com. That's BundleSelect.com.
The estimated minimum savings are based on a comparison with the national average. Individual results may vary, and the estimated savings are not guaranteed. Bundle Select Inc. is a licensed real estate broker. California Bureau of Real Estate Broker license number 004666902.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's topic or guests, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you again for tuning in today and always tuning in. Appreciate it. Today we have in studio Jack Russo, who is the managing partner with the Computer Law Group. We are doing an ongoing series. Hopefully, depending on everybody's timing and schedules, we have Jack on every week or so. And the ongoing series, the focus is really about entrepreneurship, starting something new in Silicon Valley. There's so much around this topic. We're having a great time actually providing this information to you, and we couldn't ask for a better person. Jack Russo has been almost 4 decades.
Yeah, boy, I feel ancient at this point.
A lot of knowledge.
I hope my wife is not listening. She's going to say, I didn't realize you were so old. My goodness, what's happened to you? I thought you were a younger guy. I thought you were a younger man. No, that's just a joke. She's very kind to me, and she actually listens. She actually listens to every podcast and says, you didn't explain that well enough, or
so you have someone critiquing you.
I do.
That's good.
I do. It improves.
We all
things.
need that.
It improves things.
It does.
You'd be amazed. So she would say to me, I'm just thinking, what would she say? What would Dr. Lee Suter? She's Stanford PhD, very smart woman. What would she say about this? I think she'd say, look, you got to give people more detail.
Yeah.
And the detail, really, the devil is in the details, and every case is different. But as a general proposition, and I'm not here to try to sell legal services, I'm really here, as you say, to try to get people to understand.
Right.
They need to spend some of those attentional hours that would otherwise be drained watching TV or doing something goofy with a pad. I brought the trusty yellow pad and a pen because I think paper still works, at least for me.
Right.
There are obviously people who don't think that way. There are people that come in and they say, "What paper? You're supposed to be a computer lawyer. Where's the tablet? Where's your iPad?" And I say, "No, I'm still pretty much of the view that carrying around a yellow pad is great." And start thinking about when the business is started. Eventually, it has a life and a half-life, and it usually is not for most businesses far beyond 10 to 20 years max. I mean, Apple's been around for now going on 50 years and has gotten to $1 trillion. That is an exception to the rule.
Right.
There are a few, as I mentioned, old, like most ancient companies around are these beer companies from Japan that get to 400 or 500 years old. But most companies either die or they merge into other companies or they transition into something else or they take new names, new management because generations change and demand changes. And Apple was previously in the computer business. Now you'd probably say they're more in the phone business than the computer business. It's really
Tesla's in the battery business.
Tesla's going into the electrifying the home business, even be more general than batteries. It's a big, big business.
Right.
We're going to electrify everything. So what you have to do is you have to say to yourself, this business is getting started. It's going to have a beginning, middle, and end, as we all do. We get started, we have a beginning, we go to school, we have a midlife career. We typically try to avoid the midlife crisis. Then we have an end and a retirement. And that happens in every business. And you have to start thinking almost from the get-go, what is the likely exit plan and how do we modulate the risk going into that plan? This is not simple stuff. Obviously, there is some simple stuff you can do, like make sure you have all the passwords written down somewhere in a protected place for a trusted person to get access to if you're not around, so all of those electronic files can be retrieved. Make sure you've thought through what are the ways in which some miserable hit will occur and anticipate the insurance need, anticipate the camera need, anticipate the security need, anticipate all the other locks needs and all the other protection needs, and try to bake in as much as possible. And sometimes it's just bring a new party to the table, like an outside person who knows nothing about anything, to just ask some dumb questions like, hey, is there a lock on the door? Because you got about $50,000 worth of equipment in this room, in this TV booth or radio station booth. And if it's all gone, the show's going to be off the air for a while. I mean, you can replace it, but the reality is it won't be instantaneously replugged in, and you'll lose some time. In fact, these big businesses are finding out the hard way because they go offline as a result of an attack, and sometimes they don't have a mirrored system. And a lot of it is also doing some fundamental things to back up your data in ways that make you feel confident that if there's a fire, which does still happen, that's why we have fire departments, or a theft or a vandalism or something, you can bring the system back up. One of the reasons we at our offices opened the San Francisco office was to mirror everything in another location. It's hard to imagine a fire in 2 locations.
Right.
So if San Francisco goes down, Palo Alto's still up. If Palo Alto goes down, San Francisco still goes up. Now, you can only do this so often without spending a fortune in rent, but conceptually, you're trying to build yourself a backup to your backup. Now, you can get extreme and crazy. It's like I tell this story when I took the Hawaii bar. I went there with my little electric typewriter, and of course it wouldn't work. And there was a guy there that had a backup typewriter that loaned it to me. I mean, I owe that. I passed the Hawaii bar, but for that guy, I would have probably failed it because my handwriting isn't that legible. And he loaned me his backup typewriter.
So with this risk, as I'm listening to you, I mean, there's so many different variables. You're starting a company, just getting underway. You're planning the best you can. But this brings up, as I think about this and listen, Jack, you know, not every entrepreneur, we talked about this before, has skill sets in all these different areas, right?
Yes.
Or even understands risk management. You might have some dynamic super gal or guy that is just go-getter, knows all about sales or technology or whatever. They may not know anything. So is this where the team, the advisors, someone like yourself, your group, you would actually consult with them to kind of fill these pieces in?
You have to fill the pieces in, and then you have to get some independent thinkers. So let's take a case that's in the news right now, and we're all in the legal community kind of a buzz about how did Theranos get away with fraud on that blood system that they allegedly came up with.
That's amazing.
Amazing story. There's a woman who absolutely convinced everyone.
That's incredible.
I don't want to defame her. I think the news is the news and the facts are the facts. But there's a book called Bad Blood out. I'm not the author. The author wrote a tremendous account of how this entrepreneur who emulated Steve Jobs, the great Steve Jobs, said, I'm going to wear the black turtleneck shirts or sweaters, and I'm, as a woman, going to make a statement that girls and women can be entrepreneurs too. We can be successful too.
Right.
It's not just a Me Too movement. We are just as smart as men are too. Like the whole emphasis on a movement. And she caught that wave.
She did.
And she rode that wave. And the reality is there was no surfboard under her. She was riding a wave with a surfboard that was imaginary. And she was able to get away because the culture was not to ask the tough questions. If you read the book and you read between the lines of the criminal indictment that has been brought against her and her co-founder, there was a culture of, we will eventually build it. Don't worry about the facade. Steve Jobs didn't come up necessarily the first day with a computer. He obviously did actually come up with a computer, but this notion of the vision is there, and if we build it, they will come. And if we don't quite have it done and we overstate that we actually have the blueprints and we're building it, and we're actually saying there are test results, hey, we can convince them to put money in. And once that money comes in, we will get the scientists to do it. And they got away with murder, not murder in the physical sense, but some high-risk situation, because there were people that were relying on those tests.
Those are incredible, and we're talking about
results,
a lot of smart people.
A lot of smart people.
And firms,
That's
and venture capital. You can go on and investors, right?
That's right.
Pumped a lot of money into this.
That's right. And there becomes this mania, and it is the seamy side of Silicon Valley. At times I say the next book I should write is not so much the guide to creating a successful startup of Silicon Valley.
How to watch out for
but the seamy side of Silicon Valley that does exist, because there are people that drink the Kool-Aid and will believe anyone who tells them this is going to be the next Facebook, this is going to be the next Google, this is going to be the next Apple, this is going to be the next Netflix, and they're off to the races. And the truth is, getting products out and then getting them to be provably successful is hard work.
Yeah, really
and
hard.
You have to have not only a brilliant idea, you have to have a great team, and you have to have the resources behind the team, and you have to have a set of ethics. And the ethical part is where there are a lot of people in business schools these days that are saying risk management is exactly married to ethics. So people have to come in with checklists and literally go through what's the true data. And we were saying over the break, the blockchain may create some verifiability around scientific and non-scientific results. So let's take the Theranos case. They had a data flow of data coming out of their machines. if that data flow made its way right onto the blockchain, an open blockchain, maybe they put some password protection into a private blockchain, but it's still storage media that is theoretically always available, 7 by 24, and can get probed.
Right.
They could have outside scientists who come into that blockchain and say, yeah, these are pretty good blood test results.
Right.
Obviously, you'd want the video camera showing that the machine was actually handling it and not some other party to say that's the machine putting that stuff out. But if the machine is not putting that stuff out, equally you want those people to come in saying, this machine's all wrong.
Yeah.
This data is all wrong. This is not calibrated well. This is like a bad mapping system. It's not sending you to Los Gatos to make it here in time for the show. It's sending you to San Jose.
Yeah.
You're not going to get to the right place at the right time.
Yeah. So with a couple minutes left, how would you summarize and wrap up? And the obvious, risk management is extremely important. When you're excited, I'm guessing, again, I've done this before. When you're excited about your idea, it's one thing. You certainly have to get it started, get surrounded with the right people, raise the money, do all the stuff that we've talked about.
Yes.
But do not forget about the risk and how you manage that risk and how you insure it to some extent.
That's right. It's all wrapped together.
Yeah.
And what I like to say to people, if we had a prop here, the prop would be kind of the Russian dolls. The idea is this sort of little seed that's the original Russian doll, and then into that seed grows a leader and team, because the seed of the idea has to emanate from the leader, often a single inventor, but sometimes a group of inventors. And then the team has to buy in it critically, not just as yes men or yes women, but critically as we're going to add value as we collectively put all our intelligence, and that becomes yet another version of the doll. Then the board of advisors and the board of directors add more strength and a bigger and bigger doll. And before the thing goes into commercial launch, you've got to do enough testing with people who you trust to tell you straight up, this is not going to work. Let me tell you why.
Right.
This is why I don't think it'll work. And you want to do that in enough cycles to get a sense of, I've really now beat this horse to the ground, to use a bad metaphor. I've really beat this idea. This can work, this cannot work. And you learn a lot about whether or not you can build something that's actually going to sustainably grow the top line while you reduce. Like right now, Tesla's had a few crashes, a few fires. You could argue maybe they didn't do enough testing. You could argue, hey, they have a lower rate of accidents than other cars. They're taking all that data and they're saying we can make changes. I'm sure they must be doing this. All successful companies do this. They'll make changes to grow the top line, and we could start lowering the risk. And the risk that we can't cover, we can figure out either insurance or self-insurance. Yeah. And that's what they do. Yeah. That's what they have to do. All businesses do.
Important information. Jack, another good show. Thanks for your time.
Well, you're welcome. And you can tell your readers we're giving away copies of the books to those who want to comment on the show, or even if they just want to write in and say, send me a book, we'll do that.
40 years. 40 years all combined into a book, condensed. And let me tell you, it's a lot of valuable information. It'll give you kind of a peek at Jack and the firm, but more importantly, give you an idea of those that want to get started or have friends or family members. Great book. Again, for more information, you can contact Jack. He's on the website here, too. And then lastly, Jack, how do they contact you again one more time?
Right, Jack at computerlaw.com or 650-327-9800. It's our main phone line. I'll look forward to talking to anyone that has comments about the book or otherwise.
Yeah.
Love to help people.
Absolutely.
Good. Thanks, Joe.
Right, thanks
for your time.
It's Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thanks again for tuning in. Thanks for those that are following us on Facebook. For those listening to the podcast, take care. Thanks again. Have a great afternoon.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Subscribe to our podcast. Discover more at RERadiolive.com.